Good evening. Hope you're all doing well. And thank you for joining me, either live or recording. I want to have a quick conversation, do a quick analysis of history and behavior. For a little background, my undergraduate is in social science composite, which allows for me to teach history, poli-sci, sociology, geography, and psychology up to the high school level. And I am an amateur historian, as well as formerly professional as a teacher. And I am a behavior analyst with a master's of education with emphasis in administration and a postmaster's certificate in behavior analysis. I am an avid reader, and I love exploring and understanding. So I want to have a little conversation this evening about what made America great. And I'm going to bring this back to behavior analysis because these all relate. But let's talk a little bit about the meme, Make America Great Again. And meme, by the way, is a scientific term. The internet meme, the concept came after the scientific term. A meme is the equivalent to a gene, but for ideas. And so a meme is information, a simplified piece of information. But that meme, Make America Great Again, it comes from somewhere. And when we're looking at how that meme is used and what it's in reference to, we also have to keep in mind that we need to consider memory and whose memory is being triggered with that meme. And so we know about the different generations. First time, as far as we know in history, that generations have been classified into different categories. It's roughly speaking fairly accurate, based off of cultural analysis. But let's look at the different generations. So boomers, they grew up when America was on a rise after some very horrible things that happened, both economically and geopolitically. And so the boomers, they're remembering America being great from an economic perspective, but they were also very young. And so they did not see or recall all the things that made America great. And when we're looking at what made America great, those things were basically social safety nets being added where previously they were not, and investment into infrastructure, and investment into social supports, and investment into those different things. And where did that money come from? It came from tax brackets on income taxes, where people making above a certain amount, that amount above that certain amount was taxed at a higher rate, and that funded things. Now, people could argue that funding could come from different sources, and I happen to read up on universal basic income and how universal basic income works, and I think that it's a fantastic idea, especially based off the research that's coming out on it. But let's just talk about just what made America great. And what made America great, if we really boil it down, is investment into things that make it so that people don't have to struggle. And it allows for them to be able to take risks and to do things, invest in themselves, invest in their communities, where previously they might have been struggling to take care of certain things. Now, we know what made America great because I've been able to define that for you, but what are the things that did not make us great? The things that did not make us great are, and if I lose viewers and followers on this, I'm okay with that, because frankly, if you're going to have an issue with me saying this, then I don't want you following me, because I'm not doing this for the money. I don't make money off of this. What I do for passion, because I care, and this is part of my values. So what made America not great was systemic racism, was Jim Crow, was preventing people from being able to exercise their franchise. What did not make America great was sexism, that was preventing women from being able have a bank account or own their own property without having a husband, was preventing no-fault divorces where women could leave if they're not happy with where they're at. The things that were not making America great was the repression and harm of queer communities. And that means all queer folks, gay, lesbian, trans, two-spirit, non-binary, asexual, like the systemic pathologization and harm of those communities is what made us not great. What also made us not great was the way that disabled communities were treated, and frankly are still treated. All of these groups are treated poorly, but what was making us greater is that we have, as a society, up until recently, been making positive strides, gradually moving forward. Was it fast enough? No, it was not fast enough. It is not fast enough, but it's still movement forward, and that was what was making us great. But at the same time, while we're becoming great in those ways, unfortunately, there are those in our society who have been systematically undermining the systems that allowed for us to be able to be great economically, and therefore be able to invest in our communities, be able to invest in each other and to help each other. Now, I'm not saying that we shouldn't do those things regardless of economic conditions. We should. We definitely should. But I'm saying that when we're talking about motivating operations are something in the environment that increases the probability of a behavior occurring or decreases, and or increases or decreases the reinforcing or punishing effect of the consequence. So that's a motivating operation. And economic conditions are an MO for different things, including how we treat each other. And so when we're looking at identifying what makes us great and how can we be great, one of those ways is those positive economic forces that make it easier for us to engage in those sorts of behaviors. Again, what continues to make us great is the way we treat each other and the way we treat those who are systematically and historically marginalized, either because they didn't have power or their power was taken from them. So let's talk about this as it relates to behavior analysis now. It is no accident that I'm reading this journal. It is no accident that I'm reading the 46th volume, number 2, January 2023, of Perspectives on Behavior Science. Because this journal was published following the 2022 vote on contingent electric skin shock, where we, as a field, and by we I mean the behavior analysts, were allowed to vote because ABAI's leadership did everything they could to try to gerrymander and suppress the voting of people who would oppose contingent electric skin shock, which is still being practiced at Judge Rotenberg Center right now, by the way. So people are having electrodes strapped to them and they're being shocked with amperages that are anywhere from 6 to 16 times more powerful than a taser. And that's something that's still happening right now. But this perspective and behavior analysis came out 6 months, give or take, after the members of ABAI who were allowed to vote voted to oppose contingent electric skin shock. And the reason why this journal is important as a behavior analyst, I want to point this out, is that despite the voices of the behavior analysts who spoke and voted to oppose and have a statement against contingent electric skin shock, despite that, this journal contains multiple articles that are apologetic for, and not when I say apologetic, I mean apologist as in excusing, justifying contingent electric skin shock. And the reason why I say what can make us great, in addition to the economic factors, what can make us great is continuing to fight for the rights of others, to continue to fight for important change in our field, in our country, in our communities, in our states, wherever we are. And if you're not American, that's fine. I'm speaking a little bit to you too. Fight for the rights of others. Advocate for needed change, because that is something that makes us great. What makes us great is prioritizing humanity over money, prioritizing humanity over whatever belief system that you have. And unfortunately, what I saw in the debate around contingent electric skin shock, and what I still see even now, because of the leadership of ABAI, as far as I can tell, still supports it passively. Judge Rotenberg's center is still allowed at ABAI. They were there this last year. They were there the year before, and they presented sneakily on CESS, but they still presented. They were still allowed to have a booth. Their money was still taken. What I'm seeing is that is holding us back, because we're not prioritizing the rights of individuals. The reason why contingent electric skin shock is still legal is because the agency in Massachusetts that challenged BRI, now Behavior Research Institute, now Judge Rotenberg Center, they screwed up. When they took the issue to court about contingent electric skin shock, they screwed up. Their argument to the court was that they had the authority to determine what could and could not be delivered therapeutically in the state of Massachusetts, and the judge disagreed with them. And they made a very big mistake, and that mistake was that instead they should have challenged Judge Rotenberg Center, formerly Behavior Research Institute's, right to violate the clause against cruel and unusual punishment in our Constitution. Because the strength of our field is that we are a humanistic field. Yes, we're science-based. Yes, we're evidence-based. But the reason we do what we do, the reason for the 7 dimensions, or as I would like to point out, 8 dimensions if we include social validity, the reason why we do what we do is to help people. And my argument is that one of the mistakes that we've made as a field is presuming that social validity is founded upon social acceptability. Now, social acceptability has a very small portion of this. There's a small portion of this. But I would like to point out and argue that social acceptability is not social validity, because social acceptability changes. Chattel slavery used to be considered socially acceptable by certain groups in the United States, in the South. It wasn't socially acceptable in the North, or maybe it was because it was illegally allowed, but there were people who were challenging it. And do not buy into the narrative that just because some people during those times thought it was acceptable did not mean that that was the times and that was just how things were. Because there were people who were actively advocating for this change to happen back then, historically. But I digress slightly. Social acceptability is not social validity, because social validity needs to start with the rights of the individual. I'm working on a paper on this topic, and yeah, I know I'm giving it away a little bit, but that's fine. I don't mind. I want to get this idea out there. I want people to know social validity is based primarily on the rights of the individual. Now, rights are complex and environments are complex. And when we're in environments where there's conflicting rights, okay, and I'm not talking preferences here, I'm talking actual rights, like the right to bodily autonomy, right? The right to be able to be safe within your person, to be able to make your own determinations for yourself. So rights can be complex because, yes, an autistic kid, I'm an autistic kid myself if you don't know, but if an autistic kid does not have a right to reach out and grab somebody else's hair and pull it or to hurt them. Likewise, what about that kid's rights? What about their right to say no? What about their right to be able to determine for themselves those different things that they have preferences for? What about somebody's right to not be subjected to cruel and unusual punishment, or not to be subjected to coercive conditions? My point is that social validity starts and ends with rights. And in there, as a small part of that, is social acceptability, is research and trying to understand different things, right? There's other complexities that we deal with as well. That's the reason why we have ethics. That's the reason why there's an entire field outside of behavior analysis. If you're a behavior analyst, if you're not a behavior analyst, you're probably aware of this. And if you are not a behavior analyst and you're not aware of this, there are entire fields, there are entire graduates degree programs and professors of and research, and there's papers that are published on ethics. Because the reality is that our world is complex and there's conflicting perspectives, there's conflicting rights, there's situations where one will take hierarchy over another because of their circumstance. But as a general rule, rights are non-hierarchical. And we need to understand that. And we need to understand that when we're working with learners, with children, especially because the majority of us work with autistic children, we need to take into account, as a part of the social validity check, their rights. And it's complex, and it's hard, and it's not easy. Have I screwed up and violated the rights of learners in the past? Yes, I have. And as soon as I knew, I corrected. As soon as I was aware of it. And you know what? As I've been practicing analyzing my own behavior and my own choices, as I've been gathering people around me who are like-minded but willing to challenge me, okay, then I start engaging in more self-analysis, and I start checking myself more, and I have peers who check me, and we help each other out, and we back each other up. Not back each other up by always saying that, no matter what, but backing each other up by challenging each other, by pushing each other to be better. That's why community of practice matters. Because at the end of the day, rights are the foundation of social validity. And social validity, which is not a subjective measure, okay, it's a contextual measure. Rights are contextual as well, to a certain extent. So social validity is not a subjective measure, it's a contextual measure. We need to keep that in mind and focus on that and bring that back to center. Now, going back to the topic of making America great. We can be great. We can be great when we help each other. Right now, as of the recording of this particular video, things are looking pretty bleak and dark for a lot of folks. And I use the example of chattel slavery specifically for several reasons, one of which is that it was legal at the time. It wasn't right, violated the rights of individuals. The courts didn't recognize those rights, but they still violated those rights. Those rights didn't magically appear just because a court ruled that they had those rights. Those rights were there regardless. And there were patriots at that time, and there are patriots at this time who are standing up for the rights of others. That's how we become great, is we stand up for each other. We form community. We don't divide. Yes, if somebody is hurt and they're being a jerk and you want to smirk or laugh about it, we don't laugh at the pain of others. We focus on their rights. We defend the rights of everyone. We don't turn a blind eye just because the right of another person is being violated and we happen to not like them. We protect the rights for all. And one of those rights is bodily autonomy. One of those rights is being able to have food and to eat. So I'm going to encourage you, if you're feeling despair, if you're feeling frustrated, even if you're not, if you're feeling pretty good, I'm going to encourage you to make America great by going out and finding ways of helping your neighbors. Find an unhoused person and ask them if you can help them with something. Help them get food, help them identify a location where they can sleep safely, help them get some warm blankets or warm clothing. Winter is coming. In certain areas, it's getting quite cold. Reach out to your community chat groups on social media. There's plenty on Reddit and Facebook and a bunch of other locations. I think Yahoo pages are still around, or whatever, I forget what they call them, but I haven't used them in a very long time, but I know that they're still around. But identify people in your community you can help. Even if you don't have money to help, see if there's ways that you can volunteer, even just a little bit of time. Something that I'm working on right now is I'm collaborating with people in my community to identify how we can come together to do meal preps together. So my proposed idea is, and please steal it, use it. Don't worry about crediting me. I don't care if I get credit. My proposed idea is families and individuals come together and we all bring foods. We have some pre-agreed upon recipes that we're going to be creating, and people bring the materials together. We come together, we meal prep, we package it up, we separate it out, we freeze it, and the people who participate, they not only get the meals that they prepared, but they also get extra ones that they can identify people to distribute to, and or people in need can come and get those meals. And the participation can be anything from helping organize and locate time. If you don't have money, finding places and coordinating with people, right? Helping identify people in need. Just because one person is in need doesn't mean that they can't support in some way. If they have the spoons for it, if they have the executive function for it, they can help with identifying other people and pulling people together, coming and helping prepare food. The idea behind this concept of the community meal prep is that people are coming together to help each other. Because when we help each other, we're making America great. We're making our communities great. We're making each other great. We are more than the sum of our parts. We are great individually and together. And when we come together, we make ourselves even greater. We amplify each other. I hope that these ideas reach some few people. And I want to point out that I know that I said a lot of stuff, and I know that it's easy to say, and it's hard to put action in. And I have been struggling too. There's a reason why I've been quiet, haven't been posting a whole lot. And part of it's health issues and multiple moves and things like that, but part of it's also that I have been getting down. I've been struggling, just like the rest of us are. But sometimes the best thing that you can do to counteract the fatigue is look around and help however you can, any way that you can. Because when we share the weight together, it reduces the weight. When we work together, it makes things better. Thank you for spending the time here. Thank you for the interaction. Thank you for the opportunity to be here. And I hope you have a wonderful night. Human first and human always.